Hey everybody, this is Isaac from Guns for Everyone. I got another video today, and this video follows the series on fundamental skills and practicing at home and ways to do that effectively and safely. When we talk about handling firearms, one of the things that we always talk about in our classes is safety. And the beginning of the discussion for safety starts with a conversation about risk and benefit. Guns are inherently risky. There needs to be a clear benefit that outweighs that risk. In this case, what we're doing with the gun right now is practicing and practicing with the gun in order to be safer with the gun, in order to get comfortable with the gun and get familiar with the gun, is a significant benefit that outweighs the risk, as long as we keep the risk under control. When we handle guns at home, and we want to keep the risk under control, we'll do things like make sure that the gun is unloaded. And I have another video where I talk about, creating a plan on how you're going to make sure that gun is unloaded. But another way we do that is managing the direction of the firearm, making sure that the firearm stays pointed in a generally safe direction whenever possible. Today, when I handle this gun for you, the goal is to keep it pointed in a generally safe direction whenever possible, which, while I'm doing what I'm doing here, should be possible in all circumstances. There should be no reason why I would need to point that gun in a clearly unsafe direction. So I'm going to switch this camera around so you have a different view of my workbench and the things that I'll be doing with the gun. And then we're going to talk about learning how to manage the safe direction with that gun. Okay, I have on the table here a couple of firearms and a fake gun. This right here, fake gun. This is just a piece of rubber, while as these two guns are real firearms. Now, one of the things that we're going to want to do is make sure that the gun is unloaded before we start practicing or doing anything with it. And I'm going to go ahead and just double check and verify that that gun is unloaded. I'm going to look away and I'm going to come back and check that same thing. And on this one, I will do the same thing. Check, look away, come back, double check. All right. So as part of practicing with firearms at home, I want to set up my environment in a way that is safe. And so that is to remove the ammo from the area, make sure I have no intention, plan, or possible way of loading these guns while I'm practicing with them. Okay, that being said, safe direction. When handling firearms, we need to keep them pointed in a generally safe direction. And right now, this wall is my generally safe direction. What do I mean by generally safe? Well, it is not safe for me to fire around through that wall. Besides the legal issues that could arise from that, there's also the concern that the bullet would not be stopped by the layers between me and the outside. Also, I'm married, and a round going off in the house is a huge problem on multiple levels. So there is no way I can call this a safe direction. However, for what I'm trying to do, this is a generally safe direction, meaning if something did go horribly wrong, there are enough precautions in place to limit the risk at a manageable level to myself and to other people. So this is my generally safe direction. I'm establishing that because as I handle these real guns, I'm going to be doing it in a way to keep them pointed in that direction. And as a visual aid for that, I'm going to attach a laser. All right, so I've got a laser here that you can see where this thing is pointed as I handle it. Okay. Now, one of the things that happens when people handle guns is they understand safe direction in the terms of like, don't point guns at things that you don't intend to shoot. That's the way it's said a lot. Don't point guns at things you don't intend to shoot. That's a stupid way of saying it because I don't intend to shoot the wall, but I am going to use this as my generally safe direction. When we say keep the weapon pointed in a generally safe direction whenever possible, that means there should be almost very, very few circumstances where you would need to point this thing in a direction that's not generally safe. But what happens is people get distracted. So they'll start handling the gun and they'll start turning the gun sideways, or they're looking at the gun and now the gun is pointed in a different direction. Or I want to check if the gun is loaded, so I bring the gun up to look, and now I'm pointing the gun where I didn't agree was a generally safe direction. Or I do any number of things where I don't realize that I'm pointing a gun. This is pointing a gun, but so is this, so is this, so is this, and certainly so is this. Pointing a gun means putting whatever's in front of this muzzle in potentially immediate danger. So we need to manage that. That needs to be our primary concern when we're handling the gun. So with this visual aid, as I handle the firearm, I am going to take the magazine and put the magazine in. You see the firearm stays pointed in the same spot. I'm going to check to make sure there's ammo. There's not really ammo, but I'm mimicking what I would do on the range. And then I'm going to close the gun. As I close the gun, I'm going to keep it pointed in that direction. Now I'm going to unload the gun. So the magazine's going to fall out. And I'm going to rack the slide. You notice I'm not letting the gun drift over to this direction. I'm keeping it pointed here. If I were to drop something on the ground and I bend down to pick it up, I'm maintaining this direction. If there's something going on with the gun I need to see, while keeping it pointed here, I'm looking at the gun. I'm looking down the magazine well. I'm looking into the chamber. I'm paying attention first to where it's pointed before I do anything else with the gun. What happens a lot with handguns, especially, sometimes with rifles, well, often with rifles, but more often with handguns, is because this thing is so small, it's so easy to change the direction. All right, so right now it's pointed this way, and I turn the gun like this, and now it's pointed in a completely different direction. When people handle guns in front of me, I see that a lot. I see the direction of the gun starts out right and then changes as the attention is on something else related to the gun, but not where it's pointed. So as a practice, when you are learning how to handle your gun, you should be paying attention to where it's pointed as you do the steps to load the gun, unload the gun, check the gun, close the gun, stage the gun. This is locked. Yeah. Okay. Stage the gun. Okay. Retrieve the gun. I'm not sure which. There we go. Retrieve the gun. All right. Holster the gun. This holster doesn't fit, and even if it did fit, it wouldn't fit with the laser. But as a demonstration, as I go to holster, I'm not taking any unnecessary risks. I'm bringing the holster up from the bottom and I'm putting it in rather than crossing my hand in front of the gun to get the holster on the gun. Or another thing we see when people are holstering their gun is they start pushing the gun in to do this. And if I was paying attention to where that laser was, I'd be seeing that laser all over my body, not just where it needs to be pointed as it goes into the holster. So lots of examples, but the primary concern here is make sure it's supposed to be pointed where you point it. Don't let that gun drift into different directions unnecessarily. This takes practice. Getting to be comfortable. It's like driving a car. It takes a while to get comfortable driving the car. And one of the things that we often see with new people who are driving is as soon as they start paying attention to something else, the car starts drifting in one direction or the other. But after a while, you get used to how to keep the car pointed in the right direction as you then do other things. Check your mirrors, check your blind spot, yell at the kids in the back seat. The things that we do while we're driving do not cause us to drift unless our attention gets really pulled away from driving. That's where things like texting end up causing problems, is because our attention is drawn in so much to that task. It's easy to lose control of the car. And so when you're handling the gun is the most important thing. Pay attention where that thing is pointed. Have a good reason for pointing it that direction, and maintain your awareness as you're touching that gun. Even if all you're doing is picking it up to show somebody, even if you're looking at it to inspect it, the whole time you're keeping that thing pointed where it's supposed to be. So how can you practice this at home? Get something, where's my prop? Get something, well, I'll just use a piece of paper. Get something that's somewhat contrasting, that you can pay attention. So I don't need a laser, but I can pay attention to where this is pointed as I do these things, and as I back up, and as I get closer, and as I load the gun, I can watch in high contrast what I'm pointing the gun at. It's a good way to practice at home. If you don't have any bad habits to break, it's not going to take that long to get good at this. If you do have bad habits to break, it will take a while to get a hold of this. The other thing you're going to want to practice while you do this is keeping your finger off the trigger, which is something that we're going to talk about in another video. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Please leave comments and let me know what else you have questions about. I'm not going to say like and subscribe because I really don't give a shit about that. These videos are to educate the people who care. And so if you care, you will put forth the effort to keep an eye out and look for new videos as they come. If you don't care, then fine, that's you. All right, appreciate you watching. Check us out, gunsforeveryone.com. Free concealed carry classes across Colorado and beyond. And I look forward to seeing one of you in a class sometime soon. Thank you very much.